Welcome to Inform New Hampshire. We are broadcasting live on Mondays at 6 p.m., Thursdays 7:30 a.m., and Saturday and Sundays on the weekends with Manchester Public Television Channel 23. We also have Inform New Hampshire YouTube channel, which we invite you to go to and hit the like button or subscribe to the channel if you would. Richie and I are concerned about the peril that our country is in regarding the usurpation of all of our fundamental rights by the overreaching federal government and in many cases state governments, local governments. And both of us are concerned that over time nobody's really talking about the pertinent issues, certainly not the mainstream media, so we're here to bring some of the information in the news that you won't find in the mainstream media and bring it to your attention so that you can decide for yourselves where we're headed, why we're headed there, and what you may want to do about it. We just want to mention a couple of points before we start the show. One in regards to the continuing incarceration, political prisoner that Jerry DeLamus is. Richie, if you would, can you mention the website to contribute to that?
Yeah, it's if you want to contribute money to his legal aid fund, it's www.patriotjerry.com, and I'm sure him and his wife would appreciate it. Jerry went out there as a peacemaker trying to resolve issues, and he's being accused of God knows what, but he's being made an example of by the government, which is not right. He's a nice guy. He's everything. He's a peacemaker. He's not looking for trouble. But unfortunately, he's in Nevada right now, awaiting trial, I guess. So I don't know the charges, but if you can help out, I'm sure him and his wife would appreciate it.
Also, Richie and I believe that the problems that America faces can be resolved legally and lawfully with the common law grand juries, which were taken from us back in 1946 via a footnote to some legal processes. The National Liberty Alliance is an organization that is nationwide, grassroots organization working towards the reinstallation and the use of the common law grand juries and common law juries and reinstalling common law to the land, which is our natural given rights here in this country. However, it's been usurped and replaced by statutes and codes and maritime law or Admiralty law. So when you walk into a courtroom these days, you're not getting a fair trial. You're getting a corporate trial, and you're being possibly accused of crimes where there is no injured party, which absolutely isn't a crime. So so if you want to check out National Liberty Alliance, you can go look at nationallibertyalliance.org, and there's some wonderful educational processes there. They have a civics course, which is just outstanding. Will give you a fast track to educating yourself on many of the issues that we discuss on the show. There's some things happening in the New Hampshire legislature and across the country where a number of influences are pushing for a constitutional convention. And a constitutional convention is something that exists in Article 5 of the Constitution, which is a process that allows Congress to amend the Constitution itself. Now that hasn't happened for, help me out here, since 17-something.
1787.
That hasn't happened since 1787. So for 200 and some odd years, we've existed with the Constitution as it is, even though it's being completely ignored and trampled on by our government. It has not been amended or changed, and the original intent for amendments was to correct errors, not to alter the structure of our country. So this push for a constitutional convention carries, I guess, many different there are many different reasons out there that people are proposing. But that's what we want to get into today is a little bit of talking about this constitutional convention that seems to be, New Hampshire has not yet, I don't even know the process, ratified their request for a constitutional convention, but New Hampshire is supposed to vote on it. And we are opposed to it for many reasons. But anyway, we're going to talk about that. Richie, you want to start off at all?
Yes, the Article 5 convention, which is being proposed around the country, like Dean said, has been going on for quite some time, a number of years, as a matter of fact. It was just brought to my attention by a friend of mine that there's a public hearing this coming Thursday, April 14th, at 10 o'clock a.m. in room 303 of the Legislative Office Building behind the State House. And we intend to be up there, and we're going to bring a lot of other people with us. For whatever reason, I don't try to tell people what to speak or what to say, but the reason we have this show, one of the reasons, is to try to enlighten people. You make up your own mind. The Constitution of the United States is ours, not mine and not yours. It's ours. It's all of us. You have a right to speak and say whatever you want to say, as do I. With that, I wanted to ask, I've asked Dean rather to read Article 5 of the United States Constitution. And just for the record, this is being read out of a certified copy of an 1819 Constitution for the United States of America, with the original 13th Amendment in it, the Titles of Nobility Amendment that a lot of people in this country want to hide. However, it's a certified copy. That doesn't make too much difference because the Constitution that they're printing out today and this one, at least as far as Article 5 goes, is the same. But after he reads this, I wanted to point out some of the things that people may not see. They're kind of subtle, and you might not agree with me, but we'll point them out anyway, and we'll talk about them. So if Dean, you'll read that, I'd appreciate it.
Article 5. The Congress, whenever 2/3 of both houses shall deem it necessary, shall propose amendments to this Constitution, or, on the application of the legislatures of 2/3 of the several states, shall call a convention for proposing amendments, which, in either case, shall be valid to all intents and purposes as part of this Constitution, when ratified by the legislatures of 2/3 or 3/4 of the several states, or by conventions in 3/4 thereof, as the one or the other mode of ratification may be proposed by Congress, provided that no amendment which shall be made prior to the year of 1808 shall in any manner affect the first and fourth clause in the 9th section of the first article, and that no state shall, or with its consent, shall be deprived of its equal suffrage in the Senate. All right, so that last part was kind of tricky, but I think
the point that I wanted to make on this is that the mode of ratification is left up to Congress. Now, Congress can call for amendments, and so can the states, respectively. Congress is the one who calls for the convention, physically calls for the convention, though. And they determine how it's ratified. Is it going to be ratified by all of the states separately, all 50 states? Or, and here's the kicker, I think, the danger, is it going to be ratified by the delegates at the convention, which they have the right to, Congress has the right to do. And that's what happened in 1787. They went in to amend, and that's the tricky part, they went in to amend the Articles of Confederation. The Articles of Confederation disappeared, and less than a year later we had the Constitution. Whether it's good or bad is insignificant to what happened. They were supposed to amend the articles. The delegates, who, everybody hates this word, were the sovereign at the time, because Congress deemed them so, not the states, but the representatives of the states. They determined that they were the sovereigns. They voted on the issue. Bye-bye Articles of Confederation. That's the part that scares me. Congress is the problem that we have today, or one of the major problems, giving them the ability to change the Constitution or amend the Constitution or get rid of it for that matter, because they can do it. Don't fool yourself that they can't. Is a real tricky thing. If you were talking 60, 70 years ago, I might say different thing. I think we were all in a different frame of mind. But not today. Not today. They're passing laws that are totally unconstitutional. Obamacare, NDAA, the Patriot Act, Agenda 21, Common Core, the list goes on and on and on. And if you want to talk about executive orders, which are not law, don't apply to me and you, okay? They don't apply to the local police or the local people anywhere. An executive order only applies to federal employees. Period. Look it up. Look into it. No, I'm not saying it. That's the way it is. It's an executive order from the executive officer, the executive branch. It applies to his employees, or more specifically, government employees, not his. There are employees. Anyway, I believe it's a real danger. That's what happened in 1787. I really don't want to see it happen again for that reason. I don't trust Congress. You can disagree with me. You trust Congress? Go for it. Go up to the legislative office building and speak in favor of it. I think it's a big mistake in light of where we've been heading. But with that, I'll turn it back to you, Dean.
Well, I think it's appropriate to mention that Congress has a single-digit approval rating from the American people right now. So I'm willing to say that most of us do not agree that Congress can be trusted to amend the Constitution, which is in place to manage them and protect us from their overreach, which obviously it's not working. And part of that is due to us not being aware of what the Constitution says and its function and holding government accountable. And again, one of the places where we are remiss for having allowed this to happen is when they took away our common law grand juries. It took away one of the main powers that we had, which is over time, long before the institution of this country, has been a form of an opportunity for us to hold our government officials accountable and to redress our grievances with the overreach of government when they decide to usurp our fundamental rights. So I'm just going to go over a couple of the myths and the facts and maybe some talking points. Yeah, go ahead.
I just wanted to ask you, you said the Congress has a single-digit approval rating. Is that single-digit approval rating from the left hand or the right hand? Because I'm a little confused there.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that one.
Okay. I just thought I'd throw that in. Can I just say a disclaimer?
Yeah,
too?
yeah, go ahead.
I'm always down on the government, but they seem to be, they deserve it. However, I want to say that, I don't consider all people that work for the government bad. The people at the top that are manipulating everything and have the power and the authority, yeah, a lot of those are bad. A lot of them, the ones that are in power. But a lot of other people are my neighbors and your neighbors, and I'm not, and Dean either. We're not here condemning everybody saying they're bad people. It's our ignorance of this document, the Constitution. I'll say that to my dying breath, that we are in this situation. And if people learned this and understood this, and I think we just illustrated an example with the Article 5 Convention, Congress has the power to set the mode of ratification. Do you think that's good? I don't. I'm sorry, go ahead. I just wanted to get that in. Not all government employees are bad. There's a lot of nice people out there, thank God.
No, they're not. It's really the system that's corrupted.
Yes.
And you mentioned the right or left digit, and I just want to point out that in sales, putting people into an either-or conversation is one of the oldest sales tactics in the book. So if you get somebody stuck on, gee, do you want the red car or do you want the blue car, then you're not really talking to them about whether or not they even want to buy the car. You get, it's a form of manipulation. So for those of you who are still immersed in the Republican versus Democrat, more power to you. I'm not gonna say there's, everybody has the right to be where they are, but from my own humble opinion, it's the equivalent of sitting on a train that's headed for a cliff and you're arguing about which side of the train to sit on because of the accoutrements on one side versus the other side. But we are on a path of destruction in this country, and if you haven't figured that out yet, watch some of our previous shows, do some research outside of the mainstream media, because we really are headed for destruction, and it's being talked about everywhere. So for those of you who are busy raising your children or handling your career or following your passion with art or whatever you're doing, you have to remember that we are required to manage this country ourselves. It is up to we the people, and without we the people uniting together, we are doomed to be divided and destroyed. I notice all the time, I manage for a living, and I hire people, and the only place I ever see somebody requesting information about us, the people, based on our gender or our religion or our our heritage or our life preferences. The government is always requesting that information, and they're always using it against us. They're masters. Go ahead.
Excuse me. Doesn't that strike you as odd that your employees, because that's what they are, your taxes pay them, are requesting this personal information of you? That's part of the problem and why I don't trust the government the way I do. They hand you a paper, fill out a form, you fill it out. We all do. I mean, me too. I'm not excluding this. They'll give me 20 pages to fill out, and I'll sit there like a dope and fill out. I used to anyway. I don't anymore. Or sign your name to this, sign your name to that. Every time you sign your name, sign in a contract, don't sign your name. Don't fill out these forms. They're your employees. Start considering it that way. Start turning things around, and, hey, don't give them the consent they want. If you don't do that, things will change. And for you people, everybody has a right to their opinion, like Dean was saying. You believe what you want to believe. I don't hate you, dislike you. I disagree with you. That's it. It's your opinion. If you're a Democrat, a Republican, a conservative, a liberal, I'm an American. And I love this country. I grew up, I had a pretty decent life. My parents had a pretty decent life. They were hardworking people. A lot of my neighbors, I'm sure Dean feels the same way, and a lot of you out there. But things are changing for the worst. And your children and grandchildren are going to be ones suffering. And I don't care if you're the governor, if you're the attorney general, if you're the sheriff, if you're a cop, if you're a teacher. It doesn't matter what you are. Your children and grandchildren got to live in this country with my children and grandchildren, and we should all want a better life for them. And that's all this is about. There's nothing in this for me and Dean. We don't get paid for doing this. We don't want money. We want to make people aware, and the only way to do that is for you to watch this show and pass it along. You don't have to agree with what we say. Pass it along. It'll stimulate the thought process. You can sit there and call me and Dean all kinds of names. I could care less. Have your own opinion. Form your own opinion. Don't form your opinion based on what the Southern Law Poverty Center, whatever the hell they're called, says. Think up here. Use your head. What do you think about what's happening? Everybody knows something's wrong. What do you think? Tell people, watch that movie, Inform New Hampshire. It's pretty good. I don't agree with them, but it makes you think. That's all we're trying to do here.
The movie?
Yes.
Inform New Hampshire. Is that what you said?
Yeah.
We got a movie. We are a movie. All right, look, I'm going to go over a few talking points here. The first one is going to be the most salient and the most obvious solution, and I can't even believe we're having this conversation, because to throw the power back at Congress to amend the Constitution because the Constitution is being violated and we need to make some sort of a correction is like a den of wolves, and we want them to stop chewing on us, so we throw meat at them. It's just stupid. Anyway, the Constitution is not the problem. The problem is the federal and state governments have ignored the Constitution, and the people are ignorant about what it says. The Constitution needs to be understood, defended, and enforced, not amended and not rewritten. And hey, amen to that.
Hallelujah.
To ask the usurpers of the Constitution to rewrite it for us or to amend it is the most absurd notion that we could clearly this is an attempt to eradicate that one document around which we can rally and take control of our country. They just want to get rid of it for us. They've hated it most of their forever. Government hates the controls that we put on them. So yeah, go ahead.
Jump in here for a second, because I just wanted to say that the Constitution is still in effect. It is the law of the land, the supreme law of the land, Article 6, Paragraph 2. Take the time to read it. Go buy a Constitution for 50 cents or $1. Stop by our meetings, I'll give you one. But read that. It's still in full force and effect. And for those of you who may not know, the Constitution is a common law document. So is the Declaration of Independence, the Constitution. I didn't say that. They are. If you understand what common law is, you'll understand that that's the facts. Look into it. Don't take my word for it. I don't want you to digest what I'm taking and regurgitate it every place you go. Think about what I'm saying. Go look in other places, and you can dispute it with me if you disagree. You're entitled to disagree. This is still America. I'll fight for that right for anybody. Had to say that. Had to get that in.
So why would the federal government comply with an amended Constitution when they ignore the one that we have now? Great question, right? So for those of you who are in New Hampshire and listening to this, it's time to stand up. It's time to get involved. It's time to speak up. It's time to reach out. You know, you need to let your legislators know that it's not appropriate to advocate a constitutional convention. It just doesn't make sense, and we need to make it known up at the legislature in Concord. So stand up, speak up, do whatever you can, make yourselves heard. That's our job as we the people, to manage our government. So
can I hit another point for you?
Yeah, go ahead. Yep.
I just wanted to mention, and this is a possibility because of what happened in 1787 with the Articles of Confederation. If this convention goes through, it is possible, and I'm not saying it's going to happen because I don't know, I don't predict the future, but it's possible that these delegates can go in there and hypothetically someone goes in with a boatload of money and says, we're going to give you all $10 million to vote this way. They come up with a constitution. Congress already said the delegates can ratify it. They ratify a document that says the federal government controls everything. There's no more city, county, or state governments. Guess what? You got to live with it, because your state, your sovereign 50 states, sent delegates which made them sovereign, and the Congress said, you got the power. You lost your Constitution. You have no rights. You got to think about that. And if it means anything to you and your family, take the time to be at the Legislative Office Building this Thursday, 4/14/16, at room 303 at 10 a.m. Should be flooded. There should be thousands of people up there going through there. That's just my opinion, though.
Yeah, some of the proponents of this constitutional convention are arguing that, you know, the states will maintain, because this convention would be called for by the states out of the two processes which you can call for a constitutional convention, the states would have some sort of control or power to manage the outcome. But, and let me point out, and this is a great time to point this out, because right now we have perfect example of exactly what we don't want. What we're finding out, and what most Americans are finding out across the country, is they don't get to vote for their president. They're being usurped by the delegates, like in the state of Colorado, where they just decided to say, oh, we're not even going to have a vote. We're just going to we're going to take away your right to vote for a president of your choice, and we're going to put someone in there that we choose, which they did. And then they knew that Donald Trump would win the Colorado state, and whether you're for Donald Trump or not, this is a relevant point, regardless of your preference for who you'd like to have president, because you don't get to choose. You just don't. You don't. So the equivalent of the Politburo is now appointing who's going to be available for you to vote for in the fall. So that's not a choice. That's just somebody else choosing for you. So the same thing would happen here at the Constitutional Convention. The delegates would make up the decisions, the choices. They would amend this thing any way they choose, and the states would be stuck with whatever they did. So we would have no choice. And once again, it's just the power structure, manipulating the process, manipulating the people, and manipulating the talking points, the conversation, the public opinions, the public awareness of what's going on. And they're once again just usurping power for themselves and throwing us into the ash heap of history, as Ronald Reagan would say. So what do you got? Anything?
Yes.
Go ahead.
It's a little bit off the mark, but it's illustrate a point. A friend of mine who's a state rep, a guy I respect and admire, filed legislation not too long ago on the right to travel. And I'm not going to mention his name because I don't want to put him on the spot, but it was a very, very good piece of legislation. Me and Dean traveled here today. We traveled, and neither one of us called. You didn't call the government, did you?
No.
For permission?
No.
I didn't either. So you don't need permission to travel from the government. And this whole thing was about a driver's license. Do you need one? No, you don't need one, and you don't need the state of New Hampshire's permission either. The federal law, the Constitution, says you have the right to travel. But all of the people in the committee, everyone to a man, these are state reps, voted this piece of legislation down because they said, well, the state's going to be losing out on a lot of revenue. Well, you better decide what's more important, the almighty dollar or your rights. Because if you're going to take the money and be a whore and lose your rights, you deserve what you get. And you better think about that. Not just for that right. That was just to illustrate a point. It's for all of them. Because a lot of time, and I can't stand listening to this stuff. Oh, the government gave us a grant, or the government. Who the hell do you think the government is? It's us. It's the money from your wallet. So you're taking it from your wallet and giving it to the feds. They're teasing your state reps with your. I got an idea. Let's don't pay the federal government. Let's just give it to our state. How about we do that? Anyway, it really bothered me that the state reps would do that unanimously for money. That bothers me. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Dean.
Yep, there's probably a lot more that would bother you that they're doing. And again, there are a number of really great reps that we have in the legislature here in New Hampshire. Richie and I know quite a few of them, but they are not the majority. They are the minority, and they stand for we the people, but their voices go unheard. Their votes are ignored, and they work their butts off for us to represent us. And in the end, the majority of them are following the orders from the oligarchy structure, wherever they get their marching orders from. They vote in unison, and they continue to usurp all of our fundamental rights in almost everything they do up there at the legislature. Our problem isn't the corporations. Our problem isn't that corporations donate money to political campaigns. Our problem is that everyone ignores the Constitution. How many of us know the enumerated powers delegated to the federal government? That's a question. How many enumerated powers are there?
18.
How many know that our Constitution created a federal government of enumerated powers only? Explain what that means, Richie.
Well, they've given the federal. We have given the federal government because we are the sovereigns. I'll say this very quickly. We are the sovereigns. We gave them. The Constitution is defined in limited powers that we granted to the government. In here, Article 1, 2, and 3, the legislative, executive, and judicial branch of the government. They did not exist until the states signed this agreement. It's called a compact because it's between sovereigns. Once we did that, and by the way, the state isn't a sovereign, the state's a piece of dirt. We are the sovereigns. Once we did that, we told the federal government what we could do.
By the way,
what they could do, I'm sorry.
Richie and I don't advocate sovereign citizens. I don't even know what that is. It's a misnomer. But anyway, just for the record, we don't advocate that, whatever that group is, if there is one. Richie, I wasn't paying attention to the time, but we're almost out of time. I do want to mention that Richie is running for sheriff of Hillsborough County here in New Hampshire. He would make an outstanding sheriff who would uphold the Constitution and defend the rights of we the people versus the corporate structure that is usurping all of our rights. So, for those of you who are inclined to vote next fall, we'd love for you to vote for Richie. Thank you for watching us. Let's see, is there any other points we need to say?
I just want to say that if you hear any bad things about me or anything about me, check it out. Don't take your word for it. I've already heard some bad stuff that I did not say. So just find out for yourself. And thank you for listening as always. Please pass this show along to people, though.
Thanks, folks.
Thank
Look
you.
forward to seeing you next week.